Good afternoon, everyone. I am Saurabh Mishra, part of NASCOM National SME team. I would like to, welcome you all to this session, and we can wait for another couple of minutes before all the attendees would join in. Then we can begin with the program. Yeah, kindly please stay tuned before we start the session. Thank you all. Thank you again for joining us today. And we are good to begin this program this afternoon. And it's a great pleasure for us to host each one of you in the second edition of the NASCOM SME CentreStage series talk. So this program is all about, learning, inspiration, and leadership. In this program, we invite eminent speakers from the tech industry, the business leaders, serial entrepreneurs who have built a solid business over the years. And we seek to learn from them, those eminent personalities, and interact with them and try to know their success recipe, the journey they have traversed, and how they have built a very successful business for themselves. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce you all the host of the session, Mr. Sanjaya Chatterjee. So Mr. Chatterjee is an esteemed member of NASCOM SME Council and representing Eastern region. He is he's a serial entrepreneur and a founder CTO of Ideation Technologies based out of Calcutta. He is an alumni of IIT Kharagpur, and he has been actively working with NASCOM for last several years, promoting ICT industry to the larger audience and building a strong SME ecosystem in the country. So without wasting any further, I would like to request Mr. Sanjaya Chatterjee to begin this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Saurav, and very good afternoon to you all, and especially Mr. Ramakrishna Dasari, our panelist, today. So we'll really have a very wonderful session, we hope. To give a quick introduction of Mr. Dasari, he is a founding CEO and managing director of Efftronics Systems Private Limited, which was established in 1985. So backed by a very rich research and development, Efftronics is a leading provider of smart solutions for railway signaling, smart cities, smart buildings, and industries. The largest IoT network, around 6 million plus signaling assets of Indian Railways, which improves the Indian asset availability, safety, and operations, are done by Efftronics. Efftronics was honored with CIO Choice Award in 2017 for IoT. It was voted by 400 plus CIOs and CTOs across India. So very, very good and welcome. And I'm really elated and honored to be the host of this session. Welcome, Mr. Dasari, and we would like to take ahead this session with your permission.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yes.
Thank you. So let us start with your history. In fact, I was talking to you other day, and really, I mean, personally, I was overwhelmed by the history of your journey. So maybe for our entrepreneurial audience, let us start with your background a bit and how your interest in technology progressed. So if you can start with that for our audience. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Good morning. If I look back, how I am able to learn technology and how I have more interest towards the technology, maybe my childhood. When I talk about my childhood, I came from a farmer family, but luckily our parents purchased a tractor at the when I was in a 6 years old, and then maybe around 7, 8 years old, we have a rice mill. And they allowed me to go around to the workshops and all to see what is happening. They never restricted me to sit in home or do something. So I used to go to the fields. I used to drive the tractor at the very early age. And even I used to open the certain things, and maybe my parents or my grandfather used to open the clock and all that. That means where I started seeing the technology. Maybe when I was in a 10, 12 years old, I opened entire bicycle and reassembled and the overhauled entire thing. Like that, lot of electrical technology. This all make me to get interest towards the technology. That's one side of the coin. Then automatically when my father wants me to be a doctor, I said, no, I doesn't want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. Otherwise, I will only do the farming. So that's where I got very clear what is called passion towards the technology. That's one side. Of course, when initially I was more passionate about mechanical, but when I started entering into the engineering, my passion shifted to the electrical and then electronics and to the computers and the overall system approach, basically. That's one side. The other side is my other grandfather used to question everything. And there I started getting into the rational thinking and all that. So when early ages, when I used to go to the temples and all, my grandfather used to say, you should not go to the temple. Then I started questioning, even I don't have any God. When you are saying there is only one God. So this type of rational thinking and questioning started in the school itself. I hope that might have helped me to learn the things in a different way than the conventional thinking, conventional way of learning. That's, I hope.
Absolutely. I mean, from cycle to rail. So this is a very big jump. And really, I mean, great. In fact, the next we would like to know about, as you started with the place, I mean, you were born in Guntur, I guess, near a village from Guntur, and then you are now operating from Vijayawada. So, what exactly and how you selected this place? I mean, any specific reason for that? Something on your business area?
Of course, I didn't have any plan in the beginning. Basically, after working for learning outside from my home, 5 years in BTech in Surat and then 2 years MTech in IIT, I was far away from my parents. I thought I should spend some time near my parents. That's where I have option to work only in some engineering college at that point for a couple of years. And after that, I thought I will choose my journey differently. But when we are doing some projects in the microprocessor area, we found a certain project is successful, especially LED displays. Then when we thought we should go for a market and all that, then we didn't want to move anywhere. And the area where we started the working there, only with some friends, we started the organization. Then afterwards, I didn't find any challenge to move somewhere else, because we don't have any different challenges there. In the sense, there are people thinks that when we move to the Hyderabad or other cities, we may be doing well and all that. But in between, I worked in some other projects in Hyderabad. I didn't find any extra advantage there, where I didn't find a disadvantage in Vijayawada. Of course, there is a few things, in my opinion, maybe you are talking in that area. One of the challenge, basically, everybody talks about the technical challenges, especially the areas when we are talking about R&D in the embedded systems or software. Again, building a not commercial software, technical software. There is no proper manpower available in the country. That's what my observation. That's where the majority of the things will be trained in a commercial softwares. There, when we are trying to train, use that people, always it is a challenging to work with whatever the regular people and the trained people. They will be, they request, they need to have objects, they need to have that, this. They go with the conventional. When you want to do research, we have to go into the more basics. Then there is no option for me except trying the freshers in that area. Then they only will be able to take the challenge because they are plain and they don't have any extra knowledge previously. Whatever we say, they will take up. That's where we found that is easy to do it in a tier 2 cities. Of course, the advantage of tier 2 cities is when we train, at least within short period, they don't leave. Maybe they will stay for a couple of years, 3-4 years or something. That also will be helping. I don't have any challenge in the other, in the tier 2.
This is interesting because my next question was about resources, and you already mentioned that. In fact, this is great to know, like the pros and cons of having in a tier 2 cities, but and in your area being hardware, electronics, and it was not that very easy. But and you said, like, you have taken it a very positive way, and you think it is better in tier 2 cities than metro to have this kind of resources being trained gradually, and also of those, the challenge for attrition is much less in those kind of cities to start with. So you basically create, or you prepare them, you train them, and use them for your business. So with this model, definitely is very great learning. And with your 600 plus employees that already you have, I think your success validates what you have done to handle this kind of challenges of resources. I think before I go to the next question for the audience, let me tell you, like, you may write the questions if you have in the chat window. In the end of the session, we will address those questions by Mr. Dasari, and then we might have we'll have a very small survey, maybe 3-4 questions. So please feel free to write the questions in the chat window. And the next, Mr. Dasari, I would like to know about a bit more about your company, Efftronics. So can you enlighten us about a few inflection points in your entrepreneurial journey with Efftronics? Because you started initially your career as you wanted to be a scientist, and you started your career as a lecturer in an engineering college. And from there, you had opened this, your company. So definitely that was a big leap, and your organization is driven by R&D, which is the main, I can find out, like, that's like a major factor. So let us, please enlighten us about with some kind of, what do you think some inflection points in your entrepreneurial journey?
So initially, when we started in 1985, initially we developed some display boards with LED display, where the LEDs switch on, switch off, and show the characters and movements and all with in our home with the 3 of us. Of course, entire thing is done by us without much tools. That is only we purchased some 8085 processor and all hardware even soldered by all 3 of us without having any people and all. Of course, that is a good success because of 2 reasons. That type of displays were not there in the country or even other part of the world. And when we are talking about a displays, generally people used to think the LED should have some close pitch, but we made it a bigger pitch of 1.5 inch. Because of that, the cost and the optimization of the cost and the entire value to the entire chain is good, basically, what I mean to say. The customer used to buy the display board from us. He used to put the advertisement from 20, 30 people, and he used to get around 8,000 for each advertisement per month. That way, he used to get 25, 30,000 per month. Whereas we used to sell that board for 65,000. Within 3-4 months, he used to get the total money. The people who advertises it also, there will be a lot of this type of things is very new in the every town. So a lot of crowd used to gather and all that happen. Because of that, even the advertiser used to get the value. Simultaneously, we also get the value because the raw material cost only something like 25, 30,000, and we used to sell at 65,000. So because we don't have much overhead, we use it to make money. So the growth is very good for 4 or 5 years. Every year, 3 times growth and all that. That's the first product. Of course, there we build a lot of algorithms by ourselves. So we didn't, that is what is the success, because with a small 8085 processor, we are able to control something like 16 by 160 LEDs, that is a 2560 LEDs, refreshing it every 20 milliseconds, and then the movement of the data and everything in a very small CPU with a very good algorithms. That's what made a success. Then the same thing is expanded with the 8085. And in between, one of our relatives want to make a homeo computer. There also what we did is, rather than going with a conventional computer, we build everything with using a small microprocessor, 8085 itself. A small calculator thing where the Kent and all that type of repository put inside, and it calculates and gives the value in a small this thing box. So that is also given a very good success. All these areas we build what is called algorithms by ourselves from the grassroots level. That's what I mean, the basic success. Next thing what we did is I'm talking somewhere in 85, 86, 87. At that point, we brought the PC and built the graphics algorithms and created a input interface to our display boards. That's where the display board became a more rich, where I will be able to create a graphics. Nowhere we used any of the tools, basically. Everything we did in a C or Pascal, and the other side is a assembly language. This is a type of things. Then the next success which we are able to see is when there is a what is called city cable like network TVs, somewhere that is around 94, 95. We put a stock exchange data onto the network. And where all stock values used to be displayed in a local area network of a TVs, where the people sitting in home, they will be able to understand what is the stock exchange values and all that. At that point of time, nowhere in the country, any other TV channel used to do that. Because in Vijayawada, we have 3-4 private stock exchanges. That stock exchange automation we did, and the data is thrown to the display, the TV channel. That is again created a new dimension where a lot of people started working. There are all activities done without using any external tools. That's what I mean to say. So that's where many times we build our own algorithms. Similarly, in between, we did for a petrol bunk bay automation, where multiple CPUs are connected with a Unix machine and do entire transactions automatic. Again, working in something, taking a flow meter, control the flow. Suppose somebody wants something 1 KL to be filled in that tank. After completing 1 KL, it will stop automatically. So the challenges of theft and all that will be stopped there, because of the people use it to take the bill for diesel and take the petrol. So these type of things were stopped at that. So these all created internally, we got a confidence about any combination of the things we'll be able to build from the grassroots level with the CPUs, and or otherwise desktop or server, whatever that type of technologies without using a third-party softwares and all. This is what is a major success. Because in a LED displays, we are able to push the data to the multiple LEDs within a shorter period. When I take that is in reverse, In a railway stations, we have something like thousands of relays has to be monitored. That is opposite of the displays, reading the data and packetizing and sending it to the central place. Because already in a bay automation, we are able to network entire thing. We are able to get the data from various railway stations and bring it to the central place. So once we got entire data into the central place, we used to create a dashboards and some exceptions of the certain combinations is working or not. Thereby, we used to create alerts into the data so that that analytics will help the railways where the failure is there, and where when there is an accident or something, they will be able to see entire thing in a graphical form, how the things is happening. This is all created something, a ecosystem step by step with the indigenous technology of our own IP. This is a backbone of our company. The same things will be used in various other applications because all the basics were clearly having modules in our organization. We have knowledge that helps to push the things.
This is really, really great. Now I understand why your growth has been so stable and so big. The reason is you have that history and you grew up and you embraced technology and research in every point. Rightly, you said, like, the analytics, IoT, and now you're coming from this 8086, those days, and evolved all around. So tell me one, if we have to ask you about a very specific, unique about your company. Because you work in smart signaling for signaling for railways, smart cities solutions, smart buildings, industry. This is quite vast in area. Now, what, according to you, say like the key differentiator, top 3 for your company, you think?
As I said previously, we have an entire platform is there for us to adapt to any system. That is a base. Technically, we are having a base. But the technology, in my opinion, is not sufficient because now we can get the platforms from anywhere. But our thought process is always we have to create a value to the customer. Value to the customer means what are the total cumulative benefits divided by total cost management of the solution. That is what our definition of value. So when we are talking value, there are a few challenges in the value. So where is the value? First is I have to identify. That is the first challenge. The second is after identifying how I create that. Third is how I deliver. See that whatever the solution is used by the customer, he gets the benefit out of it. Then how you scale up to sustain and grow. The last one is maybe refine that. So here, what is that happened in our entire journey is we are open for any of the challenges from the customer. The customers of some of our customers knows that any critical challenge we can throw it to the Efftronics. They don't question it, they will try. That's first thing. Second thing is when we want to do POC many times, when we validate that, we don't ask for money. So we spend our own money, and if we feel this has an opportunity, we do the experiment and show the POC. Once POC is successful, naturally the business is there. That is the one dimension which we take it. For that, whatever we are talking today, design thinking or outcome mind and all that. So that is basically the thing. And we are very sincere to our customer. We never try to see that he should not do. Once he pays something, whether we make money or not, we want to solve the problem. Sometimes with some of the projects, we overrun by 2-3 times also. That means, so we charge 1 crore and that is went into 3-4 crores also. We didn't leave it, maybe delayed. That is the thing. But we never leave it. And we see that the project will be there with a longer life, basically. Because what happens is any project we complete, after that there will be some technologies will change and that will not be available. But we always try to keep thought process that it should run for 10-15 years so that he will be able to get benefit. For that, how to create a spare and how to maintain, and indirectly that is a technical debt to us if you look into it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's really great points. So, but like any other company, you definitely had faced competition.
Yeah.
Right. No, what was your experience? How you tackled those competitors and had overcome efficiently? I mean,
of course, the simplest thing is whenever we are entering into the market, we try to enter as a first. That is a niche areas only. We don't want to go into the head-on. That is the first dimension. Always we try to take care of that. So when we are not going with the head-on, automatically when you are niche, there is a two challenges. One is when you are going with niche, whether you may be successful or not, there is a high risk is there. But we try to take the calculated risk in every time. Automatically, maybe 1 in 4 project only will earn money. Remaining 3 will be lost. So that anyhow, that is a startup ecosystem or venture capital. Everybody talks same thing. That 10 or 20% success only possible in this area when you are going with a niche. That's a first dimension, which we take as a basics of the things. The second is when heavily crowded and when we think that there is no, what is called, we are not making money. If somebody is able to make more efficiently than us, we exit from that area. So we don't continue that. So we doesn't want to compromise on the quality. Once we keep the quality as it is, naturally when heavy crowded, the people will compromise on the quality and come with the low, very, very low cost. At that point, we try to exit or we continue, but only with our terms. That means our only cost. If somebody wants with, maybe sometimes our cost is 2 times, 3 times, but still if somebody wants, we'll give it. Otherwise, we don't fight with that. That is that's where we don't lose cash in general, except on R&D. So that's something which will be as a basic philosophy, I think.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now, on the same line, your majority, I mean, a very big business, it comes from the Indian Railways. And we all know, being entrepreneur, it is not very easy to do business with government.
Yeah.
So as I would like to really know about your experience when you, I mean, how easy or how difficult it was to work with Indian Railways for so many years. I mean, and such a humongous job that you are doing still continuously. So what is your experience and overall, if you can share with all our entrepreneurs?
Of course, any government organization, as all of us know, the challenges are different because one is slow in action and sometimes they don't have enough knowledge and they have to go with L1. These are all standard challenges for any organization. There are two to three things which is good with the Indian Railways is their DNA. What is that their DNA is? Regularly there will be a intercommunication among the officers. So when there is a intercommunication among the officers, whether we do good or bad, it will be communicated among them. So that is the first thing which really helps. If you are able to make a good quality product and serve the things properly, always there is a good communication is there. Second challenge or the second thing in Indian Railways, anything is it's a safety thing and same time rails has to run. That is where it's a critical. So what happens is when anything is around the safety, they give a highest priority. Even the 1 in maybe 1 lakh possibility to get into the accident, for that also they invest money on that. So if you know where they invest, where they doesn't invest, entering into that area and solving that problems will help. That is a second thing. The third dimension, which I feel is a majority of the governments, they doesn't want to pay for each activity. That's really what happens. Because once you take tender, they expect you have to add sometimes 20% extra, 30% extra without asking money. Or otherwise, some failures also you have to compensate. That we use it to take in the costing properly. And we know pretty well that we have to serve it for without AMCs or without this thing for a longer period, which we are taking care of. Because of that, we don't ask any failure. Okay, sometimes recently some indication, some situation where we supplied some 20 lakh worth equipment. They put it in some godown where the water is entered. that is buried in electronics. If it is buried in water, you know, what are the challenges? But again, we took that back to the factory without asking any money, without complaining. We solved all the problems. So these are all maybe in entire ecosystem, maybe we'll be spending some 2-3% extra in an overall expenditure. But still, that is a there is no what is called issues with railways, because the moment you start asking for money, then the issues start. Because of that, they are comfortable with us. And okay, we add the cost 2%, 3% in regular costing, so that we don't lose it. Basically, that's my the way which we are working, which solves majority of the challenges. Unlike when you are talking to the municipalities and all, the bigger challenge is they don't have communication. They don't communicate. Now, smart cities, the problem which we are facing is smart cities among the people, they are not communicating. Again, IAS officers are changing from one department to the other department where there is no communication. Because of that, really, it's tough to work with that type of organization. Even I am seeing private organizations also. Suppose you want to go into the steel industry or some other industry, some segment. There is no communication among the industries. But the good thing with Indian Railways is there is a intercommunication which makes us successful.
This is a great insight that you are given. It's like indeed a learning. I mean, this way, this perspective. In fact, I never thought of this way. And really, this must be a great learning for our fellow entrepreneurs. And definitely, this is an humongous job, as I already mentioned. Like even this ecosystem now, and you know how to use best, and you have already mastered it well. Another key area which you are very vocal in all your interviews and what all I have seen, even today also you mentioned many times about the research and development, the R&D. So, I mean, as a startup or as a mid-sized companies or growing companies, having an R&D practice, starting an R&D practice within an organization is like something is very, I won't say difficult, but this is kind of, I mean, it's something to be, taken, from somewhere. It is not that very easy. And as you know, like, India, IT or ITS or this is mostly service focused. So embracing R&D is not that very easy. So you did it. Now, what is your mantra to all of us, to start an R&D practice within the organization, and how it will help? Please, your feedback on that.
Of course, basically the first thing is what we need to have basics. So when you are talking about any technology, are we able to understand the basics from the grassroots level? So unless we don't understand the basics from the grassroots level and understand the clarity, suppose if I am working with some CPU microprocessor, what is that microprocessor does and how we build the solutions. And unfortunately, what will happen is we'll have a lot of ready-made modules will be available with the real-time operating system or something, where with the configurations you can do many things. But people think that is the shortest path. But I never believe that, because when you are buying somebody's module, the module will have you have to learn the module first challenge. Second is after that, there is some internally, certain bugs will be there, certain limitations will be there. All that will add to a limitations in developing the new product. That is, and again, that adds a lot of overheads in a multi-dimensional. One is the technical overhead will be there. Second is cost overhead will be there. Then to maintain that overhead will be there. If I train that in their module, this fellow will be going to various places directly with very quickly. These are all various challenges will be there with the modules. Even today also, when the international modules also, we found a lot of bugs in that. That is natural. And second thing is that module, they go on changing their versions. When they change their version, automatically you have to learn that version also. Again, rebuilding around this version is again the challenge. These are all the things which we try to eliminate as much as possible. We try to work with the grassroots things. Suppose even if you are developing a software also, I prefer to build a lot of algorithms in C rather than using Python or Java or something. Okay, where you want to use it, you can use it in the outer layers or something. But inner layers, you try to work with data structures, with internal algorithms, all should be more in that. That's where we are able to work with a very speed. That is the one thing. The most important thing is when you are talking in IoT, you need to have a high speed. That is the number of packets I will be able to crunch in a second, which we are able to achieve around 300 somewhere in 20 years back. Now, with this today's technology, we are able to do it 5,000 or something with the platforms available in the market, international platforms also. They don't have that much capability of crunching that much number. They are flexible. They have a lot of features, but the number of data crunching is less. Because of that, this is a fundamentals which we do it. That's one side. Second thing, we always has getting exposure to the technology continuously. What is that meaning is at least majority of our senior people, including me, we go to the international expos to the world, and not just going morning to evening, we go to each stall and see what they are doing, how they are doing, and we interact with them and understand what is the new ways of solving the problems, or new solutions, new opportunities, all that are otherwise new technologies available for us to adopt. These are all which we will be exploring continuously. That's where we'll be continuously update with the things. The second dimension is for the practices and all. Maybe from last 5-6 years, we started going to all Gartner's symposiums or the various symposiums to understand what is a new practices and all that. So that we'll be updated the new thing. Just not update, we have to take back and practice it. Sometimes we don't find there is a solution. If I buy some sensor or buy some processor, without target, we first buy and experiment around that, understand its behavior, how that works and all that. So these modules of experimentation and implementation, trying will be helpful in building the bigger blocks or the bigger solutions. If sometimes when customer asks, I have this challenge, already I have all modules pieces available, which I can combine and get the solution quickly, where I have certainty is there when I experiment it. If I don't experiment it, there is a lot of uncertainty with it. So we resolve uncertainties more before continuously. And same time, we have a lot of challenge banks will be there in our minds, or even sometimes when some customer asks, could you solve this problem? Maybe with the present technology, we may not be able to solve, or with our exposure. But that is keep in our mind behind. Whenever some new technology, something we identified, some solution, we try to map it, whether we can try with this. So that's how the entire R&D works. We spend money on R&D without looking, that means almost 5 to 10% of our turnover is spent on R&D continuously and training and exploring the things, apart from building the solutions.
That's really great. We are new age entrepreneurs. If you have to cite one recipe, only one recipe for them, what would that be?
I feel they have to look into the value. Value creation is the only solution. Today, as a customer, when you go to the market, we look for a value, whatever we are buying. Same way, when somebody is trying to start the solution, they have to look how I create a value to the customer. Even same time, how I get value to me. That means I should not do it free. The sustainability of the organization should be if I am able to make some money. That's where I should see how customer get value, how I get value. That's where I think most important.
Great. Now, what is your philosophy, according to you, of a successful enterprise? Your philosophy about that?
Of course, basically 2-3 things. As I said, we have to create a value to the customer. That's first important. That's where in Gandhi, there is some 7 deadly sins. In that, wealth without work. That is that means we should not expect somebody's money just like that without giving some valuable outcome to them. That's fundamentally what, when we keep that in our mind, majority things will work. So the other challenges which we have to solve as an entrepreneur is one is the most important is the cash flow. Unfortunately, majority of the things, majority people doesn't understand the cash flow. Sometimes you may lose also. If your cash flow is good, you will be able to sustain. A lot of companies which were closed or dead is because they are not able to maintain the cash flow. That's the first, even bigger companies to small companies. That is what we have to. At the same time, today, the processes is important, and even how to build the proper HR is also very important. Otherwise, unfortunately, in our Indian education, I feel biggest challenges were there, where today they are not really building the engineers. That's where really, not only engineers, any profession properly. That's where educational challenge. So we can't complain on that. We have to build them when we are coming into our organization. This is the most important.
Four items, like, as you said, one is your value, second is your process, your about your resources, as well as yeah. So that's great. This is about you. On one of the interview you mentioned, in fact, I like that. I mean, you mentioned about your personal philosophy, about your philosophy, about your life. You said you do not follow rules.
Yeah.
Can you just elaborate? This is very interesting.
Yeah, basically that's what I said. Basically, many times when you are following somebody's books, textbooks and all, they write this should be like this should be like this. This is that's a well-trodden rules. But recently also when I am seeing one book called Drive, in that they say today we need to work with some purpose. That's where we want to get an end solution. The second is we need to have autonomy. That is the independent thinking. We should not believe that, okay, Newton said this or Einstein said that. Unless you don't experiment and follow, there is a relation is there, we should do that. Otherwise, you should not follow that. That's where I doesn't want to blindly follow somebody how strong they are or how big they are. That's what I mean. I doesn't want to follow somebody unless I don't get convinced by whatever way means. That is makes sometimes questioning from a grassroots level, understanding the things and finding the shortest path. That is what the objective of that. So once that is there, I think many times that's what our journey also. Many times we didn't follow the rules, which created a higher value with a very simple dimension. When somebody asked me to build a homeopathy computer, then I asked, what for you want? What are your requirements? Then he told me this. Then why should you want a personal computer to do all that? I will put everything what you are asking in a process, some memory and a EEPROM, again in a coded form. The word will be put in a coded form. Like that, we compressed everything and the calculation is much faster.
Yeah. Definitely. Before we move on to the questions from the audience, I have the last question from my end. About the future, you started with microprocessor, you are in the IoT analytics, and you have embraced, the new age connected world. Now the future, of course, like metaverse and all are coming. So what is your plan for your company and yourself in future?
Of course, basically today, what one is which we are working on IoT. IoT means, as per the definitions, sense, communicate, analyze, act. Again, how you apply the analytics to the autonomous side, that is starting with the descriptive analytics, prescriptive, and finally autonomous. That is one direction. All that need to be converged towards the digital twin. That's what I started understanding. When you are able to create the digital twin, at least in my opinion, that may be having a life up to maybe coming 20 years, 30 years. That's what my understanding of that. So we need to build more digital twins for the areas where we are working. We need to acquire the knowledge on building the digital twins.
Correct. I think digital twin is the next big thing, so great to know that you will be going towards that. We'll definitely look forward to it. So let us take some questions from the audience. One question that's popping up here: how do you shape up your entire day?
Of course, it is a very simple. Of course, previously, of course, few hours, almost entire day hours I spend in the office only. Otherwise, I will be there in some colleges or somewhere in academic councils or giving some lectures or something, or some socialization in the industrial circles. Apart that, my day, of course, one is exercises and even spending some entertainment in seeing movies or TVs or internet or reading something.
Great. Next question. The kind of functions that you are actively involved in currently in your organization.
Of course, today I'm like more of a CTO, not like a CEO. 50% of or even 60-70% of work today I'm CTO. Even my son and other people who are there who will be taking care of many of the other administrative functions and the financial functions also. Slowly I am coming out of the basic CEO functions and more of I am taking towards the CTO functions so that I can build more solutions around my thought process. That's fundamentally what I am trying to push towards that.
That's great to know. In fact, CTO at the age of 72, great. I mean, and in the current technologies, that's really a great thing. The one question that has come up, it is somebody's writing, it is all over the tech industry is facing the talent crisis. In your opinion, what the SME organizations need to do to overcome this crisis?
Of course, there is only one solution is we have to train. That is one aspect. The second is how you are able to segregate, that is a de-skilling of certain activities in a more structured way. And maybe you have to handhold them in that area also. How you do that more effectively. And without de-skilling, you can't do the things. And at the same time, you need to skill them also in certain areas from the basics. Because when we are talking with the young people, they doesn't know how the computer works. Computer architecture, they doesn't know. They doesn't know the data structures. They doesn't know programming. Of course, first challenge will come is a reskilling and then skilling. These are all the biggest challenge. We need to have patience to train them.
Okay.
There is no alternative. Today, when I see somebody coming from an intern from Germany, work in our organization, he is able to complete his work in 4 or 5 months, which our people, 2-3 people will take 2-3 years. Because they were well trained in the things and we need not do that. But unfortunately, today, our entire education is very, very in tough state. Even now we are training faculty as a trainer. We invite the faculty to come into our organization, spend 2-3 months along with our people to learn how really the industry practices and even surprising, they know C, they know entire thing, but they don't know how to build the algorithms. They don't know how to read the data sheets. And then understand the things. Even of course, they are also enjoying and doing the experiments along with our people.
That's really good. So another thing, in industries like yours, like where a lot of sourcing has to be done, right, from different components for different components. How you solve this problem because of the COVID? Is that did that affect your sourcing of your components, or how you do this? You do it manufacture in India? You take it from there? What exactly?
There are multiple components will be there. One is the semiconductors. Unfortunately, we don't have any Indian semiconductors.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah. So we have to import only. So we stick to some couple of manufacturers and try to work around that chips only. That's where, of course, the biggest challenge happened in the COVID time, especially last 1.5 years, is a chip shortage. So the lead times were almost more than 1 year, 1.5 years. So that crisis is one of the biggest crises, which we need to redesign a lot of our modules and stock it. And sometimes again redesigned, again we didn't get the stock, which they promised. Again redesign. Next time what we did is we stocked for an entire year. So that way we are able to solve the problem. Of course, other thing is We have some suppliers, PCBs and all in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune and all that. Metal type, anyhow, there is a lot of people available in various places. Connectors and all, again, some imported, some local. Majority of the time, we don't have ecosystem. The biggest challenge in India, anywhere, including Bangalore or Bombay or wherever. We had majority of things comes from Singapore or something. There may be some few stockists, but we have to understand their ecosystem, their way of working, and we need to take them as a partners in our activity. Otherwise, it's tough. We need to regularly in touch with them and understand what are the new products is coming, new components is coming, how the change is happening, or how which is the components is a bulk consumed in India. Yeah. That is also another challenge. So when you bulk consumed, you adapt to that type of components in our design, it's easy to get the components. Like that, lot of practices which we have to do. That area of electronics is really challenging in India.
Great. We have one question from an attendee. Somebody is asking about the government sales cycles are longer. So what would be your advice to startups in these cases?
Of course, basically one is a cycle which we have to understand. Suppose if I want to go and work with the defense, it's not even 1 year, it is a 5 to 10 years. Even the type of patience you should have, the type of money you should have, the type of things, then only you'll be able to work with the government. Otherwise, if you want quick improvements and all, you have to work with the private only. I don't find there is the tender process. First, they have to understand. Even they have to convince internally that this type of equipment is needed. Convincing itself is a tough job. That's where when we want to take any new work, we try to make it as a POC, unpaid POC. That solves the issue. Otherwise, when you are asking them to give the order, at least it takes a couple of years. When we make POC and if it is working, their job is getting easy to convince their bosses, because this is working here, I didn't pay anything, could you give the approval to purchase that? Still, it takes a couple of months. Sometimes if it is a small quantity, that is a small price, that means what happens is like in the railways, every officers will have some limits which he can take the decisions. If it is some crores, he has to go to the CST or zonal or even board also. If it is a small, maybe 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs, after certain level, or maybe 50,000 or something, maybe bottom layer officers can take the decision. So what type of product you are making and what type of costs you are asking, based on that you have to plan if you are trying to do it. More the down, you can get in a shorter cycle. Again, there also you have to convince. They also has to convince. It's not we convince them. He also should convince their bosses. Unfortunately, that challenge will be there to them.
Agree. So I think before we conclude this session, final few words from you for our entrepreneurs, and then we will move to Saurav for the concluding part of it. So last few advices or whatever you want to share with the audience.
Of course, biggest challenge for entrepreneurs in India is unlike whatever the actors are, we are not seen as stars in the country. Be clear about that.
You are a star.
And so always the people will look into it as unfortunately, when I am young, all the communists and all that, they used to, newspapers used to say, Tata Birlas are the big thieves. The type of messages were there. The type of thinking was imbibed into our mind. But when you want to get a thing where many people doesn't appreciate, don't bother about it. I am doing more service to the nation. When you are building improving the GDP, you are really the more, what is called, doing the good for the country. You are the more, what you can say, I'm not getting a right word. You are the best person to develop the country. That's internally we should think on that direction. Then you will not bother about what somebody thinks of. So whether I am helping this country to grow, that means if your organization really all GDP what you are creating, you are not taking much to your pocket. Majority of thing is value is created to the nation. The higher value you create to the nation, higher the growth for the nation. That means you are really the serving the nation. That's I feel they are entrepreneurs are the really the people. Thankless job they do to build the country, but don't bother about it. Do it. That's what the best thing which you can do.
It's really a great. I mean, thank you very much, Mr. Dasari, to be with us, and definitely in future we would like to have you again. Even for our entrepreneurs, we will request your help as a mentorship, as a mentor. So over to Saurav for the concluding part with the survey and all.
Thank you. I'm always whatever.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Thank you very much, and thank you to Mr. Ramakrishna Garu, sir. Okay. I was listening all through this session, and it was indeed my pleasure to have you as a guest speaker today. And it was, I thoroughly enjoyed. Okay. And I believe the case is same for all the attendees who were present today. And I believe one point that stands out for you, sir. I think that's the simplicity in the thoughts. And what I feel that your mind is not cluttered. You are very clear what you are going to do, how you are going to drive, and you have imbibed that fit that R&D is going to be the backbone of your growth of the company. I think that have taken you this far, and I believe with the support from the businesses or from the ecosystem, I believe you would be making great strides in the future. So thank you again, and for all of you who joined us today. And I request you to fill the short form when you close this session. And we will be having many more sessions on this CentreStage series program. It is it happens every other month, and please stay tuned to next sessions as well. And we look forward to having you in all the SMA programs that we do. Thank you again. Thank you very much, and have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.